There was once a poor carpenter named Daniel who lived on the edge of a small, quiet town. Daniel was the kind of man who rarely smiled, but was always kind. He had a big heart and strong hands, the type that held sadness without saying a word. People said he talked more to wood than to human beings. One dry Wednesday morning, Daniel dragged a pile of strange wood into his workshop. It looked old, gray, and dusty like it had been forgotten by time. He bought it cheap from a scavenger who claimed it came from a place nobody visits anymore. The truth? It was from a crumbling graveyard that had been abandoned for 50 years. But wood was wood. Daniel needed to eat. So he built a chair. He finished the chair in 2 days. It looked beautiful, dark brown, polished and strong. Daniel placed it outside his workshop for people to admire. His neighbor, a loud woman named Gloria, was the first to try it. "Ah, Daniel, this chair is really fine. Let me test it." Then she sat down. Suddenly, her face changed. Her smile faded. Her eyes turned red. She covered her face with both hands and started to cry loudly. "I took money from my sister's purse and blamed the house girl," she said between sobs. She was beaten. I knew she was innocent. Daniel stood frozen. He didn't know what to say. When Gloria stood up, she looked lost and embarrassed. She walked home without a word. The chair stayed silent. By the next morning, the whole street was talking. A crying chair? Confession chair? They called it all sorts of names. People laughed. Some got curious. Others stayed far away. Then came Victor, the local barber. He was always cheerful, full of jokes, and loved attention. "Let me try it, I beg. I no fear chair." He sat. For 2 seconds, there was silence. Then his voice cracked. I cheated on my wife 3 times. One was with her best friend. I don't even know why I do these things. He broke down in front of everyone. His wife, Nancy, who was standing nearby, screamed and ran home. Victor couldn't look anyone in the eye. That evening, he packed his things and left the town. After Victor's confession, the entire town changed. People stopped passing by Daniel's shop. Some crossed the road when they saw the chair. Children were warned not to go near it. Even the wind seemed to avoid that side of the street. But not everyone stayed away. Some were drawn to it, like the way fire draws moths. On Friday morning, a man named Samuel showed up. He was a pastor. Young, respected, with a clean white shirt and a voice that could make you cry in church. He stood in front of the chair and said, "Let the Spirit lead." Then he sat. For a few seconds, nothing happened. People began whispering. Then Samuel opened his mouth. And what came out shook the town. "I took tithe money to play lottery," he said softly. "I thought God would bless it. I lost it all. Then I lied to the church that armed robbers stole it." He started weeping. His hands shook. His white shirt now stuck to his back with sweat. People gasped. One woman shouted, "Blood of Jesus." Samuel stood up, wiped his face, and walked straight home. He didn't come out again for days. Daniel watched all of this from inside his shop. He never sat in the chair. He didn't even touch it anymore. He just stared at it, like it was no longer his. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned. In his dream, he saw the chair sitting in the middle of the graveyard. Ghosts, men, women, even children, sat on it one after the other. Each one cried. Each one whispered secrets into the wind. He woke up sweating. For the first time, he wondered what kind of wood he had really used. The next morning, he went to the man who sold him the wood. But the man was gone. No one remembered seeing him again. His stall was empty, like he had never existed. Daniel came back and just stood in front of the chair. "What are you?" he asked quietly. The chair didn't answer. But Daniel felt like something, or someone, was listening. 2 days passed. Then came James. A 14-year-old boy with quiet eyes and bruises he never talked about. His mother, Carol, was known to shout a lot. His stepfather drank too much. James saw the chair and sat. Just like that. No drama. No crowd. Just him and the wood. Then tears rolled down his cheeks. "I stole biscuits from the shop," he whispered. "But I only did it because I was hungry. Mom didn't cook. I used to eat chalk sometimes when the hunger got too loud." Daniel heard everything. His heart broke. He came out and sat beside the boy on the floor, not on the chair. They didn't talk. Just sat quietly. By now, the chair had become a legend. Some people came from other towns just to look at it. Some called it the judgment chair. Others said it was cursed. But it kept standing outside Daniel's workshop like it didn't care. Then came Lucy. She wore a red dress and matching lipstick. She was beautiful, but no one really knew her. Some said she had lived in Lagos. Others whispered she ran away from something. Lucy didn't say a word. She just walked up to the chair, fixed her dress, and sat. Her lips trembled. "I left my baby in a toilet at a bus park," she said, staring into nothing. "I couldn't afford to feed her. I waited until someone found her, then I ran." Tears blurred her mascara. The crowd that had gathered went quiet. No one laughed. No one judged. They just listened. Then Lucy stood and walked away slowly, as if she had finally removed a stone she had carried for years. By the time Lucy left, the town was no longer laughing about the chair. The people now came quietly, early in the morning or late at night, like it was a shrine. They didn't come to mock. They came to confess. Daniel stopped trying to explain it. He didn't even tell people not to sit anymore. It was as if the chair was calling them one by one. He just swept around it and left it alone. Some people came with secrets. Others left with peace. But no one sat and came out the same. One Sunday afternoon, Peter came. He was a teacher at the local primary school. Tall, neat, the type who never raised his voice. Everybody respected him. He stood in front of the chair for a long time. Then he sat. "My daughter isn't really mine," he whispered. "My wife doesn't know. She had an affair. I found out 6 years ago. I've kept it in, raised her like mine. But every time I look at her, I remember." His voice cracked. "I'm tired of pretending." Tears followed. But so did relief. For the first time in years, Peter could breathe again. He walked home. Straight to his wife. The next day, they didn't show up at church. But a week later, they returned, together. Holding hands. One day, a black Prado Jeep parked by the road. Out came Richard, the only son of Mr. Benson, the richest man in town. Richard was everything people wished for. Money, good looks, and freedom. But that day, he looked empty. He walked up to the chair. No crowd this time. Just Daniel, sweeping as usual. Richard sat. His voice shook. "I wish I never took that car. My best friend was driving. I begged him to speed up. We were drunk. He died. I lived. But his blood is still on my hands." He didn't cry. He just stared at the ground. "My parents gave the boy's family money. They think that fixed everything." He stood up slowly. It didn't. Then he entered his car and drove off. That evening, he returned to the boy's family with nothing but his hands folded and eyes full of sorrow. He begged. And the mother hugged him like a son. Daniel sat in his workshop that night, alone with his thoughts. He had built hundreds of chairs, tables, stools, but none like this one. He didn't add any magic. He didn't pray over it. He just used old wood. But maybe the wood wasn't ordinary. Maybe the chair was made from pain. And pain listens to pain. He poured himself some Gary and drank it quietly. For the first time, he thought about sitting in the chair himself. He had secrets too. Maybe the chair knew. Maybe that's why it hadn't left him. But Daniel wasn't ready. Not yet. It was past midnight when Daniel heard soft footsteps outside his workshop. He peeked through the curtain and saw a woman in a long gray wrapper and black slippers. Her face was hidden under a scarf. She looked lost. She walked straight to the chair like she had been there before. Then she sat. "I was a nurse during the war," she whispered. "I switched the name tag of a dead baby, gave the living one to the wrong mother. I was tired. I made a mistake. But I stayed quiet. For 50 years. She began to sob, her body shaking like dry leaves in harmattan. 2 families lived a lie. And I watched them grow without ever saying a word. When she stood, the scarf fell slightly. Daniel saw her face. It was Madame Grace, the old woman who sold vegetables at the corner. The one who smiled at everyone. That night, she disappeared. Nobody saw her again. The next morning, a man nobody recognized came limping into town. He looked rough, matted hair, torn trousers, and sunburned skin. But he walked with purpose. He saw the chair and laughed bitterly. "So it's true." He sat without hesitation. "I robbed a bank 10 years ago," he said. "I took the money, ran, and lived like a king in another country. But my brother was arrested in my place. They thought it was him. He spent 8 years in prison." He sniffed. "I never came back. Never wrote. Never sent help. He came out a broken man, and still told our mother he forgave me. Now the tears came. I don't deserve his forgiveness." He stood, dropped a small bag of money at Daniel's feet, and limped away. Later that day, Daniel found the brother. He placed the bag in his hand. Days passed, and then came Sarah. Everyone in town knew Sarah. She had 2 daughters, a nice boutique, and a voice that could scatter a market when she was angry. But she also had a secret. She sat in the chair slowly, almost respectfully. I lied to my husband, she began. When our first child died, I blamed his mother. I said she didn't feed the baby well. But the truth is, I slept off and left the baby on the bed. She rolled off and hit her head. Her shoulders dropped like a load fell off. He divorced his mother after that and never spoke to her again. The people watching couldn't breathe. I never told him. I was scared, but the guilt has eaten me since then. She stood, brushed her dress, and left without a word. The next day, she drove to her ex-mother-in-law's house and fell on her knees. That night, something shifted in Daniel. He cleaned the workshop, locked the door, and came to stand in front of the chair. The moonlight hit it like a spotlight. He didn't sit. He only touched it. And just that, his fingertips on the wood, brought tears to his eyes. I left my father alone in the hospital, he whispered. He begged me to stay, but I had a job interview. I said I'd come back in the evening. His voice cracked. He died 1 hour later. Alone. He covered his face and sank to the ground beside the chair. The chair didn't judge. It didn't shake. It just listened like it always did. The next visitor was Margaret, a quiet widow in her early 60s. She lived near the palm trees by the old post office. People saw her as gentle and kind, always offering palm oil and advice. But nobody knew her full story. She came early, just after dawn when the mist still covered the ground. She sat in the chair with shaking hands. I poisoned my husband, she said softly. Not with chemicals, with silence. I stopped speaking to him. For a whole year. Not a word. No food, no touch. I knew it broke him. She sniffed, her eyes red. He died thinking I hated him. But I didn't. I was just angry. I wanted to punish him for cheating. And I did. Then she looked at Daniel. Sometimes silence is deadlier than a knife. She walked away, her wrapper dragging behind her like a memory she couldn't shake off. Later that week, Kelvin came in a tinted SUV. Son of Senator Mike. He was the party boy of the town, gold chains, loud music, too much cologne. He laughed when he saw the chair. So this is the crying chair? Then he sat. Suddenly, the smirk left his face. I bribed my way into university. Paid a guy to sit my exams. My father made the calls. I failed every real test after that. But they kept pushing me up. He rubbed his chest. I'm a fraud. I don't know anything. I can't even write a CV. Then came the whisper. I made a girl pregnant. I gave her money for abortion. She died on the table. I buried that secret, but it follows me. He stood up slowly, like the weight of his own lies finally settled on his back. One rainy evening, a young woman in a wedding dress walked into the carpenter's shed. Soaking wet, mascara running down her face. The thunder roared behind her. Her name was Helen. She sat down with a heavy sigh. I left him at the altar, she began. Because I don't love him. I never did. She looked around the empty room. I love his sister. Always have. The storm outside paused as if the world was listening. I couldn't tell my parents. I couldn't tell anyone. So I chose to lie. But when I saw him waiting at the altar, smiling like a fool, I ran. She stood up, wiped her tears, and whispered, I'd rather be hated for the truth than celebrated for a lie. Then she left, heels in hand. After Helen left, something changed. The chair sat quietly for days. People came, sat, and waited, but nothing happened. No tears. No secrets. Daniel wondered if it was over. Then he noticed something new. The chair had started to crack, a thin split down the armrest like a wound slowly opening. He ran his hand over it and felt a pulse. Not a real heartbeat, but something alive. He backed away. The chair was changing. And Daniel knew something, or someone was coming next. Someone the chair had been waiting for. Her name was Lydia. Everyone in town knew her as Miss Lydia. The retired teacher with straight posture, sharp eyes, and a red cane she never dropped, even now at 70. She walked into Daniel's shop like she was entering a classroom. Quiet. Calm. In control. Then she sat. I beat children, she said without blinking. Not correction. Not discipline. I beat them out of frustration. I took out my anger on their small bodies because I had no voice at home. She touched the red cane, resting beside her. My husband beat me, and I couldn't fight back. So I became the monster in the school. She took a long breath. I see them now. They are all grown. Some still flinch when I raise my hand to wave. They remember. Daniel swallowed hard. He'd been one of her pupils. And he remembered too. A man in military boots came next. Nobody asked for his name. He didn't offer it. His uniform was dusty, his eyes red like he'd seen things no one should. He stared at the chair for a long time before sitting. Then he started talking. We shot them during the protest. Young boys and girls. Some had empty hands. Some had flags. Orders came and we obeyed. He looked down at his hands. I still see their faces. When I eat, when I sleep. Even when I hold my son. He touched his chest. I have medals, but my heart is empty. Then he stood and walked out without saying goodbye. The room stayed silent long after he was gone. A girl with a honey voice came next. She was only 16. Her name was Diana. Big brown eyes. Soft voice. Her mother sold groundnuts by the road. Diana loved to sing. People called her the bird. She came alone, in her school uniform, and sat down carefully. My uncle touches me, she whispered. When my mother goes out, he says it's our secret. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I told my mother once. She slapped me. Said I wanted to destroy her marriage. Her lips trembled. So I stopped talking. But inside, I'm disappearing. Daniel's fists clenched. Something inside him wanted to break. He stood. You don't have to keep the secret anymore. That day, he walked with Diana to the police station. That night, Daniel returned to the shed to find the chair shaking slightly. The crack had deepened. Wood dust covered the floor. He stepped closer. What do you want from me? The chair didn't reply. But Daniel heard something, a voice. Or maybe a memory. He touched the crack. And it whispered. You haven't told the full truth yet. Daniel's chest tightened. He knew exactly what it meant. He thought he'd buried that memory deep enough. But the chair knew. It always knew. Daniel didn't sleep that night. He lay on the floor beside the chair, listening to the wind outside, replaying the chair's whisper. You haven't told the full truth yet. The next morning, someone knocked gently. It was Victor, Daniel's cousin. The one who'd come to stay for a week and never left. It had been 4 years. Victor was the opposite of Daniel. Loud. Charming. Always with fresh sneakers and unfinished business ideas. He smiled when he saw the chair. So this is it. The magic seat that makes grown men cry. Daniel didn't smile back. You sure you want to try it? Victor sat with no hesitation. At first, nothing. Then silence. And then the truth. I've been stealing from you, Victor said. Little by little. Money from your pocket, your customers. Even from the tin you hide under your mattress. Daniel stared, jaw tight. I told myself it wasn't theft. I called it survival, Victor said, voice cracking. But I lied. I lied every day. He stood up quickly, avoiding Daniel's eyes. I'll leave tonight. Daniel said nothing. But something in him cracked too. Not anger, but disappointment. Her name was Grace. She was tall, always in white, and never smiled at anyone. People said she used to sing in church long ago. Then her son died in an accident. She stopped singing. In fact, she stopped living. Grace walked in slowly, like the air was heavy. She sat down. I blame her, she said, voice cold. My sister. She was driving that day. She gripped the arm of the chair. She begged me to forgive her. Cried for months. But I couldn't. I didn't. Her voice grew softer. She died of heartbreak last year. And I still feel nothing. Nothing at all. Not guilt. Not peace. Grace looked down at her hands. I buried 2 people. One with my hands. One with my silence. Then she stood up and left, her footsteps echoing like a hymn that never finished. That night, Daniel locked the doors and sat on the chair himself. He didn't cry. He didn't speak. But the chair did. You were there, it said. The night your father died. Daniel closed his eyes. You said you were asleep. But you weren't. Daniel clenched his fists. He called your name. You heard him. You stayed in bed. A tear finally slipped down Daniel's cheek. He died alone while you listened. The room was silent. I was scared, Daniel whispered. I was 12. I didn't know what to do. The chair didn't reply. It didn't need to. The truth had been said. At midnight, someone knocked on the door. Daniel opened it, heart still raw. A man stood there, tall, lean, eyes sunken like he hadn't slept in years. I heard about the chair, the stranger said. He didn't wait for permission. He walked in and sat. My name is Thomas. I don't live here. But I have a secret. The chair creaked. I burned a village, years ago during a war. They said it was a threat zone. We obeyed orders and dropped fire. He blinked slowly. I watched a woman run into the flames to save her baby. Neither came out. He wiped his face with shaking hands. I've been living, but not really. Every smile I give is fake. Every meal is ashes. Then he looked at Daniel. If this chair forgives, I'll sleep tonight. But the chair didn't speak. It only listened. And maybe that was enough. Esther, the pastor's wife, came next. She was known as Mama Church, head of the women's fellowship, first to arrive, last to leave. Her scarf was always perfect, her smile wide. But today she looked tired. She sat down on the chair without a word. I don't believe anymore, she said. Daniel blinked. In God, in prayers, or even in miracles. Her voice shook. I've buried 3 children. I've fasted. I've sown seeds. I've laid hands. She pressed her palms together. Every Sunday, I smile and shout hallelujah. But inside, I'm empty and angry. She looked up at the ceiling. I wish someone would tell me it's okay to stop pretending. Daniel didn't move. He couldn't. The silence after her words felt holy. Next was a boy who was barely 10 years old. He had a small frame, torn shirt, and dusty feet. He stood at the door shy. Daniel beckoned him in. What's your name? James. Do you want to sit? James nodded. He climbed into the chair, legs dangling. I act like I'm stupid at school, he said quickly. But I'm not. I'm just scared. Scared of what? Daniel asked. Of reading out loud. When I do, the other kids laugh. Even the teacher sometimes. So I pretend. I act like I don't know anything. But I do. He kicked his feet slowly. I read at home. I write in secret. I want to be a writer one day. Daniel smiled. You just became one. James grinned. His secret felt lighter now. A beautiful woman came next. Even before she opened her mouth, her eyes told stories. Her name was Rachel. She wore a cheap wig and held a baby girl, no older than a year. Daniel paused. Is the child yours? She sat. Hugged the baby tighter. I took her, she whispered. From the market. 1 minute the mother was shouting at the yam seller. Next minute, I walked away with the child. Daniel's heart raced. I couldn't have kids, she said. 3 miscarriages. 1 stillbirth. My husband left. My family blamed me. I was alone. Tears streamed down her face. I told myself I'd bring her back. I even wrote a note. But I couldn't. She smiled at me. Called me Mama. I broke. She kissed the baby's forehead. I don't know what to do. Daniel looked at the baby. Then at Rachel. Then at the chair. For the first time since it arrived, the chair cracked loudly, almost like a scream. Daniel jumped up. The crack on the seat had widened into a long, jagged line. A soft wind passed through the shop, even though the windows were closed. Daniel touched the wood. It was warm. Too warm. The chair had listened to over 20 souls. Each one left behind a trace, a sadness, a memory, a truth too heavy for wood alone. Maybe the chair was tired. Daniel sat in silence for a long time. Then he whispered to it. I'll give you a day to rest. He locked the door. And for the first time in weeks, no one sat in the chair. But not for long. It was early morning. The sun hadn't fully risen. Daniel was sweeping outside when he saw him. A slim man in a green hoodie, limping slightly. He was holding a small plastic bag. I came to return something, the man said. Daniel looked closely. It was Gino, the neighborhood pickpocket. Everyone knew Gino. No one trusted him. I took your old radio last year, Gino said, eyes low. Sold it for 2,000 naira. Used it to gamble. Lost everything. He stepped toward the chair. I heard what the chair does. I want it to hear me too. Daniel hesitated, then nodded. Gino sat. I've stolen from over 40 people, he began. But the one I regret most was from my mother. I took her last money. She was sick. That night she died. He choked. She forgave me with her last breath. But I've never forgiven myself. He dropped the plastic bag beside the chair. Inside was Daniel's old radio, repaired and cleaned. I know it's late, but it's something. And with that, he walked away. Next came Linda, Daniel's childhood friend. The one who always helped but never asked for help. The one who laughed the loudest but kept her eyes dry. She entered the workshop in silence and smiled. So, is the magic chair still working? Daniel smiled weakly. Only if you have something to say. She laughed, then slowly lowered herself into the chair. I loved you, she said. Daniel's smile froze. Since we were 15. I watched you date other girls. Fix their doors. Build them stools. I smiled through it all. She shook her head gently. And when you lost your dad, I wanted to hold you. But I didn't know how to say it. She stood up quickly. It's okay. I just needed the chair to know. That's all. She walked out, leaving Daniel stunned. For the first time, the chair didn't just reveal someone's secret. It gave him one to carry. A police officer was next. He came in uniform. Tall, tough face, arms like tree trunks. Name tag, Sergeant Ben. He looked at the chair like it insulted him. I don't believe in magic. Then don't sit, Daniel said. Sergeant Ben snorted and said, I killed someone. A boy. Unarmed. At a checkpoint. He ran. I thought he was carrying something. He pressed his palms into his knees. He was carrying Gary. That's all. His voice cracked. I lied in my report. The parents begged. We called them rude. Said their son was a thief. His voice dropped to a whisper. He was 16. Tears rolled down his face. His gun hung heavy at his side. I see his face every night. Daniel walked over slowly. Took the gun from the holster. Placed it on the table. You should turn yourself in. The officer didn't speak. But he didn't argue either. That night a small girl, maybe 8 or 9, came with her mother. The woman looked worried. The girl. Calm. She said she has something to say, the mother explained. The girl walked up and climbed into the chair. I prayed last year, she said. I asked God to take my daddy away. The room went cold. He beat my mum every night. I heard her crying. I asked God to stop it. She looked straight at Daniel. The next day, Daddy died. Car accident. Her voice trembled. Now I think I killed him. Daniel knelt beside her. You didn't. She nodded slowly. But I don't pray anymore. I'm scared I might kill someone else. Daniel held her hand. For the first time, the chair didn't just listen. It comforted. A woman named Sophie came next. She was pretty and always dressed well. People assumed she was single. Men flirted. She smiled, laughed, but never answered personal questions. She entered the workshop with dark glasses on, even though the sun had set. She sat gently. I've been married for 7 years, she said, eyes hidden. But nobody knows. Not even my boss. Daniel raised his eyebrows. He's in prison. Armed robbery. I married him before he got arrested. Everyone said I was mad, but I loved him. She bit her lip. I still do. She laughed bitterly. I write him letters. Visit every month. But I don't tell anyone. Because I'm tired of being judged. She stood up. You know the saddest part? She asked. Daniel shook his head. I'm still waiting for him to change. And I don't even know if he wants to. A girl no older than 13 walked in with slouched shoulders. She looked nervous. Her eyes darted around the room. What's your name? Daniel asked. Blessing, she said quickly. He smiled. That's a nice name. She looked away. I hate it. Daniel was quiet. People laugh when they call me. Blessing that failed her exam. Blessing that can't sing. Blessing that gets punished every day. She sniffed. It feels like a joke. Like I'm not really a blessing. More like a mistake. She rubbed her eyes roughly. I want to change it. Maybe then I won't feel so useless. Daniel walked closer. Your name isn't the problem. People are. But names grow into us. Just give it time. She gave a small nod. Just enough. Then left the workshop looking taller. That night, Daniel was alone. He dusted the chair. Looked it over. Then on impulse he sat. He had never done that before. And then something strange happened. He heard a voice. Not loud. Not scary. Just soft. I know your secret too. Daniel froze. What? He whispered. I know what you buried, the voice said gently. Under the mango tree. 10 years ago. Daniel's throat tightened. You told no one. Not even your mother. His hands gripped the arms of the chair. Then silence. Just silence. And Daniel knew. The chair wasn't just listening anymore. It had started remembering. Daniel woke up to the sound of murmurs. Loud ones. He pulled back his curtain and gasped. Over 50 people were standing outside his workshop. Some held babies. Others clutched Bibles. A few had cameras. A man shouted, Let us in. I have something to confess. Another yelled, Heal me first. The chair sees everything. A woman cried, Tell the chair to bring my husband back. Daniel stepped outside slowly. This is not a shrine, he shouted. It's just a chair. But nobody moved. An old woman grabbed his sleeve. Then what are you? Daniel blinked. What? She stared deep into his eyes. If the chair listens and you built the chair, that means you're not ordinary. And just like that, the crowd started kneeling. Praying. Worshipping. Daniel backed away. Something had gone terribly wrong. That evening, a teenage boy named Kenny uploaded a video. It was just 2 minutes long. In it, Daniel helped a pregnant woman sit in the chair. She cried. She spoke. She forgave the man who left her. Kenny captioned it, "The Confession Chair, Real Miracles." By midnight, the video had over 2 million views. By morning, journalists arrived. Everyone wanted to talk to Daniel. Everyone wanted to touch the chair. Daniel hid inside his house. He stopped answering calls. He didn't want fame. He just wanted peace. But it was too late. The world had found him. 3 days later, a luxury black car pulled up. A man stepped out, dressed in white robes with gold trimmings. His shoes sparkled. His smile was wide, but his eyes were cold. "I am Pastor Jude," he said, "General Overseer of Firepower Ministries." Daniel shook his hand slowly. "You are doing mighty things here," the pastor said. "But let me help you." "Help me how?" Daniel asked. "Let me move the chair to my church, where it will be protected, monetized, managed." Daniel frowned. "It's not for sale." Pastor Jude chuckled. "It's not a sale. It's a partnership." Then he leaned in. "Refuse me, and I'll show you what real spiritual warfare looks like." Daniel didn't blink. He just said, "The chair doesn't like threats." Pastor Jude's smile vanished. He turned, walked back to his car, and drove off without another word. That night, the workshop was quiet. Daniel sat on the floor beside the chair, thinking, praying, wondering what to do next. Then he blinked. The chair was gone. He ran outside. No footprints. No tire tracks. Just empty space where it once stood. He collapsed to his knees. Who could have taken it?" he whispered. But deep down he knew. The chair wasn't stolen. It had left on its own. 2 days after the chair vanished, Daniel woke up to chaos outside. 3 carpenters from different parts of town had built their own confession chairs. Painted them gold. Wrapped them in ribbons. One even put fake cobwebs on his for extra drama. They shouted into microphones. "Sit here and be delivered. Reveal your truth and be free." People queued, paid money. Sat and waited. Nothing happened. One man sat for 30 minutes and ended up sleeping. Another woman shouted, "It's not working." A third one fainted from embarrassment. People started throwing stones and cursing. Fights broke out. By evening, the imitation chairs were broken into pieces. Daniel stood far away, watching it all. He didn't smile. This wasn't funny. It was scary. A man named Frederick came knocking. He wore black from head to toe. His beard was thick. His voice calm. "I used to be a soldier," he said. "Now I work in security." Daniel nodded. Frederick stepped inside and looked around. "You know what I see here?" he asked. "Power. Uncontrolled power." He leaned forward. "I can help you control it." "How?" "Let's build more chairs. 50. One in every state. Each protected. Each monitored. You choose who sits. You become the judge of the country." Daniel frowned. "I don't want to be anyone's judge." Frederick's voice dropped. "You've already started." Daniel didn't respond. Frederick smiled. "I'll give you time." He left a business card and disappeared into the night. A woman brought her daughter one afternoon. She was 12. Her name was Lily. Pretty eyes. Soft hair. But she didn't speak. Not even a word. "They say your chair made people speak truth," the mother said. "Maybe it will make her speak at all." Daniel sighed. "The chair is gone." The woman looked crushed. She turned to leave. But Lily didn't move. She just sat down on the floor. Then whispered something. So soft. Daniel leaned in. "What did you say?" Lily looked up. "I saw where the chair went." Daniel's heart jumped. "You did?" She nodded. "In my dream." "Where?" She pointed. "To the forest. Where the dead people sleep." Then she stood up and walked out calmly. Like nothing had happened. Daniel followed her directions deep into the forest. Past the mango trees, past the dry river, and into the part where the air felt heavy. He stood still. He could hear it. Not wind. Not birds. But breathing. The whole forest was breathing. Then he saw something. A faint glow. He walked closer. And there it was. The chair. Standing alone. Wrapped in vines. Waiting. Daniel dropped to his knees. But before he could touch it, he heard footsteps behind him. Slow. Heavy. He turned. And what he saw was not human. Daniel froze. The figure stepped out from behind the trees. Its face looked like stretched skin over bone. Its hands were long and crooked like broken branches. Its eyes glowed, not with light, but with sadness. Ancient sadness. It stared at Daniel. Then it spoke. You brought it back. Daniel swallowed. Brought what? The voice. The voice of the forgotten. The mouth of the buried. The creature pointed to the chair. That wood was not just from a graveyard. It was from us. The ones never mourned. The ones never named. Daniel's heart thudded. What do you want from me? He whispered. You opened the door. Now you must keep it open. Daniel backed away. No. I didn't mean to. The creature hissed, low and deep. You heard the wood scream. You felt it tremble. But you still built the chair. Daniel couldn't deny it. It was true. He had known something wasn't right. The creature disappeared into mist. Daniel stood there, shaking. Then, slowly, the chair lifted off the ground, on its own, and floated toward him. It stopped in front of him. The vines unwrapped themselves like gentle fingers. The chair was whole again. Untouched. Waiting. Daniel didn't touch it. Instead, he asked, Why me? And the forest answered with a single word. Remembrance. He didn't understand it fully then. But deep in his spirit, something clicked. This chair wasn't just revealing secrets. It was giving the dead a voice. And maybe, just maybe, that's why people cried when they sat. They weren't only telling their secrets. They were telling someone else's. Daniel brought the chair home the next night. He cleaned it, prayed over it, locked it away in a room with no windows. Then he sat on the floor and stared at it. Why do you want me? He asked. The chair said nothing. But suddenly, he heard footsteps in his hallway. He ran out and saw a small boy standing there. Dusty, barefoot, pale lips, big, frightened eyes. Who are you? Daniel asked. The boy whispered, I was buried where you took the wood. Daniel froze. What's your name? I don't know. The boy looked at the locked door. I want to sit. Please. Daniel's hands trembled as he opened the room. The boy sat in the chair and began to cry. Not like a child, but like a soul that had waited for years to be heard. When the boy stopped crying, he spoke again. There are more. More what? Daniel asked. More people like me. Buried. Forgotten. Lost. Daniel sat down slowly. He listened. The boy began to list names. Dozens. Then hundreds. Some were children. Some were women. Some were old men with no family. Daniel began to write them down. One by one. He didn't know what he was going to do yet. But he knew he couldn't ignore it anymore. This chair wasn't a curse. It was a calling. And it had chosen him. Daniel didn't sleep that night. He sat with the list. Over 100 names. He circled one. Grace Thomas. Died age 14. The boy had said she was buried under a mango tree behind the old textile warehouse. So Daniel went. He dug. And just before sunrise, he found bones. Small ones. Wrapped in cloth. He fell to his knees. He cried. Not because he knew her, but because she had been real. And forgotten. Until now. The next day a knock came. Not one, but three. 3 different people. Each one whispered the same thing. I saw a dream. The chair showed me a name. They held crumpled papers with names scribbled on them. Different names, different graves. Daniel was stunned. It was spreading. Somehow, the chair was calling others too. Not for pain, but for truth. Daniel took a deep breath. This can't just be about secrets anymore, he whispered. It's about memory. Justice. Peace. The people nodded. Together, they decided something. They were going to form a group. Not a church or a cult. Just a circle. Of people who remember. Daniel returned to Grace's grave with 5 others and started to sing. And as they sang, Daniel swore he heard someone whisper. Thank you. That night, he wrote in his journal. We buried her again. But this time we did it right. The next morning they came. 3 SUVs. Black glasses. Black suits. They didn't knock. They walked straight into Daniel's compound. One spoke. You're Daniel. Daniel nodded. We know about the chair. Daniel said nothing. The man stepped closer. You're waking up things that should stay buried. Then he smiled, but it wasn't warm. You're about to learn something, Daniel. Secrets aren't always meant to heal. He handed Daniel a brown envelope. Inside were photos. A grave. A skeleton. A government ID tag. Daniel looked up. What do you want? The man replied. Stop digging. Or we'll dig you. Then they left. That night, Daniel locked the chair in a storeroom and tried to sleep. He couldn't. The house felt cold. The walls were whispering. He sat up and listened. The voices were soft, but growing louder. One said, they killed me. Another cried, I was 11. Another, my father buried me himself. He said I brought shame. Daniel jumped out of bed. He ran to the storeroom and flung the door open. The chair stood still. But something was different. It was glowing. Very faintly. Daniel stared. And for the first time, he whispered something to it. What are you becoming? The next morning, a woman knocked at Daniel's door. She wore no shoes. Her dress was torn. And her eyes stayed shut, even as she spoke. I saw her, she said. Who? My daughter. She died 8 years ago. But last night, she sat beside me. She told me I needed to find the chair. Daniel let her in. He didn't ask her name. He just guided her to the room. When she touched the chair, she smiled. Then she sat. And for 10 minutes, nothing happened. Then suddenly she gasped. And began to laugh. Then cry. Then scream. And then, she opened her eyes. And they were bright. Like someone had turned on a light from inside. She stood, kissed the chair, and said, She's free now. Then she left. Daniel got a call the next day. From the local ward counselor, Mr. James. Meet me, he said. Alone. No chair. Daniel agreed. They met at a quiet bush path. Mr. James didn't waste time. That chair of yours. It's waking people and making noise. But you need to understand, Daniel, this town was built on bones. Daniel frowned. Whose bones? People we don't talk about, James said, looking away. We buried shame. Pain. Mistakes. If they all come back, we lose everything. Daniel shook his head. No. We find everything. James put a hand on his shoulder. Some truths will burn us all, Daniel. Some graves are sealed for a reason. Then he left. That evening, someone posted a video online. It showed a man in his 60s sitting on the chair, sobbing. I stole from the orphanage, he confessed. I used the money to build my mansion. Another video dropped the next hour. A young woman. I lied in court. An innocent man went to prison. More came. Within 24 hours, the videos hit 2 million views. The world was watching now. Some called the chair a miracle. Others called it evil. But everyone agreed on one thing. It was real. And the world would never be the same again. Word spread fast. The chair was gone. And people were angry. They had waited days, some even traveled from far-off towns, just to sit and unburden themselves. Now it was missing. Some blamed Daniel. You used us for attention. Where's the chair? You've sold it, haven't you? Daniel stood in front of his house, surrounded. I didn't take it. I would never. A man threw a stone. It missed, but the message landed. For the first time since the chair's discovery, Daniel feared the very people he tried to help. That night, someone knocked. Softly. Daniel didn't open immediately. But the knocking didn't stop. He peeked through the window. It was a young boy. Thin, pale. Maybe 13. Daniel opened. The boy didn't speak. He just held out a paper. Then he ran. Daniel opened the folded sheet. Inside was a crude drawing of the chair, sitting in what looked like an abandoned mansion. A single word scribbled underneath. Ashridge. Daniel's heart pounded. Ashridge was on the outskirts of the town. A place people avoided. No one lived there. At least, no one was supposed to. Daniel didn't wait till morning. He grabbed a torchlight and made the journey. The mansion was overgrown with weeds. Gates rusted. Windows broken. It hadn't been touched in years. But as Daniel stepped closer, he saw faint light inside and movement. He crept in through the back. The sitting room was dim. And there, centered like a king on a throne, was the chair. Someone had placed a red rug beneath it. And behind the chair, sitting silently, were 4 people in black robes. They turned slowly toward Daniel. You shouldn't have come, one of them said. Daniel didn't move. The room felt cold. The man who had spoken rose. We are the custodians. We protect truth. But we also control it. Daniel's voice shook. You stole it. No. We saved it. You were letting it run wild. Secrets everywhere. No order. No discretion. Daniel stepped forward. You don't own the truth. Another custodian laughed. No one owns it. But some must guard it. Daniel's fists clenched. You're afraid. You're hiding. The leader walked to the chair and touched it gently. We've seen what it can do. But not everything true should be shared. Some truths kill people. Daniel stared back. Then maybe those people should have thought of that before doing what they did. The tension was thick. And the chair? The chair began to hum. Low and soft. Like it was listening. Daniel didn't step back. He stood still, eyes locked on the humming chair. One of the custodians, a tall woman with short gray hair, suddenly moved toward him. "You need to leave," she said. "We've seen what this chair does to people like you, curious ones." Daniel didn't flinch. "I'm not scared," she smirked. "You should be." But then something happened. The chair, on its own, tilted slightly to the left. A low creak followed, and the woman who had spoken collapsed. The custodian hit the floor. Eyes wide open, she gasped, clutching her chest. "No, not here, not now." The others moved toward her, but the chair's hum grew louder. It was like a drumbeat inside the walls. Then her lips moved. "I was the one who burned the orphanage, when I was 15. The other custodians froze. She was shaking now. They said it was an accident. But it wasn't. I was angry. I wanted them to pay for kicking me out. Daniel's stomach twisted. She kept going, voice cracking. 13 children died. And I let everyone think it was a gas leak. Tears flooded her eyes. And now I dream of their screams every night. She passed out. No one spoke. Even the chair fell silent. The leader of the custodians looked shaken. Daniel stepped forward again. "I told you. You can't control this thing." The man turned to him. "We weren't trying to control it. We were trying to protect people from it." Daniel nodded toward the woman on the floor. "Did that look like protection?" The leader closed his eyes briefly. Maybe it's time the world faced itself." Daniel replied softly. "That's what the chair wants." The leader looked at the chair. Then at Daniel. "Then let it choose." Daniel tilted his head. "What do you mean?" The man pointed at the chair. "If it's truly alive, let it choose who sits next." They waited in silence. The air was still, then the chair moved. Just a little. Its front legs tapped the floor, twice. Daniel's heart pounded. It tilted again, toward the youngest of the custodians, a boy no older than 19. The boy trembled. "Me? But I've done nothing." Daniel said gently. "Then the chair will have nothing to say." The boy stepped forward slowly. He sat and the air held its breath. Then the boy began to whisper. I lied about my father. I told the police he abused me, so my mom could get full custody." Everyone stared and the boy wept. "I was scared. I just wanted him to leave us alone. But now I don't even remember if it was true or not." The chair creaked once, then went still. The room was dead silent. Truth, even twisted truth, had a way of choking everyone. Daniel looked around. No more hiding. The leader finally nodded. "Then the chair goes back. To the people." And so it began, the return of the chair. But the world wasn't ready. And Daniel was about to find out why. Daniel and the custodians returned to the village at dawn. They didn't announce their arrival. They just placed the chair back in its old spot, under the mango tree beside Daniel's workshop. But the moment the chair touched the ground, something changed. A strong wind rushed through the village. Doors creaked open. Dogs barked in the distance. And within minutes, people began gathering. No one asked where it had been. They just stared. A man stepped forward first. His name was Anthony, a retired schoolteacher. "I've waited long enough," he said. "I want to speak my truth." Daniel warned, "The chair chooses. Not us." Anthony nodded. Then slowly he sat. For a second, everything was fine. Then he screamed. Anthony clutched his chest. His eyes rolled back. He gasped for air, but no words came out. Then he fell backward. Dead. A woman shrieked. Another fainted. Daniel rushed forward, touching Anthony's neck. No pulse. The villagers erupted in panic. "He died. The chair is cursed." Someone threw a stone. Another grabbed their child and ran. The scene turned chaotic in seconds. Daniel stood frozen. He had brought the chair back to help. Now someone was dead. And no secret had been told. Later that day, the village chief summoned Daniel. "You must leave," the chief said, not unkindly. Before nightfall, Daniel pleaded. It wasn't the chair. He had a heart condition, he was old. The chief raised a hand. "No, we don't want to know. You've brought something dark here. It's not your fault, but it's your burden." Daniel packed that evening. The chair remained under the mango tree, untouched. No one dared sit again. Even the birds avoided the spot. Before he left, Daniel turned to it and whispered, "What are you becoming?" The chair said nothing, but a faint creak answered him, as if it was listening. Daniel didn't go far. He stayed in an abandoned mechanic shop just outside the village. But that night, someone knocked. He opened the door cautiously. A woman stood there, wearing a black scarf. "I want to talk," she said. "I'm not afraid of the chair." Daniel frowned. You saw what happened. She nodded. I saw. And I also saw my husband drop dead 6 years ago after lying for decades. This chair is justice. Daniel stepped aside. She entered and said, My name is Linda, and I need to tell the truth, even if it kills me. Daniel's throat went dry. Why? She stared at him, eyes red. Because the lie I'm hiding is eating my soul. She leaned closer. And it's about you. Daniel stared at Linda. What do you mean about me? She didn't sit. She just stood, shaking. You were only 6 when your parents died in that fire, she said quietly. But it wasn't an accident. Daniel's heartbeat quickened. I remember the smoke. I remember someone screaming. Linda nodded slowly. That someone was me. Daniel's mouth opened, but no words came. I was the one who lit the fire, she whispered. Your father found something he wasn't supposed to. He discovered what we were doing in the graveyard. Daniel backed away. You're lying. I wish I was. Linda sat down now. Not on the chair, but on the floor. I was young, stupid, desperate. We used to dig up bodies. Old ones. For charms, rituals, secrets people paid for. Daniel felt his stomach twist. You desecrated graves? She nodded. It was me, your Uncle Joshua, and 3 others. We were part of something older than you can imagine. We took wood from the grave markers. Sold it. Burned it. And sometimes used it to make things. Daniel whispered. Like chairs. Yes. She took a shaky breath. But your father, he was clean. Good. He tried to stop us. Said he'd report everything. So you silenced him? Tears rolled down her cheeks. I didn't mean to kill anyone. I just wanted to burn the evidence, not the house. Daniel looked away. His whole body trembled. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He returned to the chair. It stood still in the moonlight. He looked at it, really looked this time. The grains of the wood seemed to shift slightly in the shadows. Daniel sat beside it. I didn't know, he whispered. They never told me. The chair let out a soft creak. It wasn't threatening. It almost sounded like a sigh. Daniel narrowed his eyes. Are you trying to finish what they started? Are you punishing them, or all of us? Another creak. Then silence. Daniel whispered one last thing. If you want justice, I'll help you. The next morning, Daniel walked to the village square. He gathered the people. He stood beside the chair. I know some of you hate this chair. Some of you fear it. But it's not here to curse anyone. He raised his voice. It's here to show us who we really are. And we need to listen. Because the secrets are destroying us from the inside. A few villagers turned away. But one man stepped forward, Michael, a young father. I want to try. Daniel nodded. Michael sat down. And when he spoke, it was the kind of truth that made even the sky feel heavy. I almost killed my son last year. I was drunk. He spilled water on my phone, and I threw him against the wall. He bled. I told everyone he fell down the stairs. I've lived with that shame ever since. He looked up, crying. But I don't want to die with lies in my mouth. And just like that, the chair became more than wood. It became something holy. Something feared. Something necessary. It was just before sunset when a dusty gray car rolled into the village. No one recognized it. But Daniel did. The moment he saw the man step out, tall, bald, face sharp as a blade, his heart nearly stopped. Joshua. His uncle. Alive. Not dead, not in prison, not far away. He was here. Joshua smiled like a man with secrets sealed behind his teeth. Well, well, he said. I heard you've been playing priest with that chair of yours. Daniel didn't answer. He was too stunned. Joshua walked past him, eyes on the chair. He touched its armrest gently. I see you used my wood. That night, Joshua came to Daniel's shed. He didn't knock. He just entered, poured himself a drink, and sat. I want the chair gone, he said. Daniel stood still. Why? Afraid it'll make you confess? Joshua grinned. No. I'm afraid it'll make others remember. You think you're healing people, Dan. But secrets are sometimes the only thing keeping them together. Daniel stepped closer. It killed a man. It brought another to tears. And it made me face the truth about my parents. That's not evil. That's honesty. Joshua's grin vanished. You think you're safe because you're brave? That chair doesn't protect. It reveals. And some things should stay buried. Daniel whispered. Like the bones you stole from the graves? Joshua's eyes turned cold. You'll regret this. He stood and walked out. And Daniel knew. Something terrible was coming. At midnight, smoke filled the sky. Daniel woke coughing. He rushed outside. His workshop was on fire. The shed gone. His tools gone. His savings gone. Villagers came running with buckets. It was no use. Someone had poured petrol. And Daniel didn't need to guess who. Joshua was nowhere to be found. The chair? Safe under the mango tree. Daniel stared at it, covered in ash and glowing under the flames. It didn't burn. Not even a scratch. People whispered, pointing. The chair, it's protected. And that's when Daniel knew. This was no ordinary wood. This was something ancient. And it had chosen him. The next morning, Daniel sat beside the chair again. This time, he wasn't alone. A 10-year-old boy approached, holding something. He handed Daniel a stone. What's this? The boy whispered. I found it under the tree. It was glowing last night. Daniel turned it over. It wasn't just a stone. It had markings, strange, carved lines like writing. And something in Daniel's chest shifted. The chair wasn't just revealing secrets. It was unlocking something. Something far older than graveyards. Older than curses. Older than even Joshua knew. And Daniel, now homeless, had only one choice. Keep the chair safe. Or let it fall into the hands of the one man who would kill the truth to save his own skin. Daniel held the stone in his hand, turning it slowly as the sun rose behind him. It was warm, almost pulsing. The carvings, now clearer in the light, weren't random. They were symbols. Old ones. He took it to the village pastor, Pastor Kevin. A calm man with soft eyes and a quiet voice. Kevin studied the markings. This is not Christian, not even traditional, he whispered. This is older than our books. Older than this village. Where did you find it? Daniel explained everything about the chair, the graveyard, Linda, Joshua, and now this stone. Kevin leaned forward. There's a legend. From long ago. About a cursed tree planted beside a man's grave. The man was a truth seer, a seer so powerful, the villagers killed him to silence his voice. They buried him deep, but they say the tree that grew there could never lie. Any wood from that tree would reveal secrets. Even pain from the past. Daniel's eyes widened. So the wood used for the chair came from the truth seer's grave. That evening, Daniel returned to his compound. The villagers had gathered again. Not for gossip, this time in fear. Joshua had returned, but he was not alone. He came with two strange men in black coats. They're from the city, Joshua said. From the government. They've come to confiscate the chair. It's a public threat. One of the men nodded stiffly. We were told this chair has caused hysteria, violence, and even death. Daniel stepped forward. You were told lies. Joshua smiled. Doesn't matter. They have a signed letter. One man reached for the chair. Daniel blocked him. You touch it, and it will touch you back. The man hesitated. Then Linda stepped forward, weak but firm. I'll sit. Everyone turned. She lowered herself into the chair. There was silence. Then she said, The men you brought don't work for the government. They work for your brother's old friend. The one who helped burn his house. Joshua's smile cracked. Gasps flew around the square. The men froze. Daniel locked eyes with Joshua. You brought criminals into this village, and now the chair has exposed you. Without warning, the chair creaked loudly, its first sound in days. It wasn't crying. It was warning. One of the fake officers stepped back. I'm not doing this. That thing's alive. The other pulled a lighter from his pocket. I'll burn it myself. He flicked it once, twice. Nothing happened. Suddenly, the chair jerked. Yes, it jerked. Wood doesn't move on its own. But this time it did. The man screamed and dropped the lighter. His hand blistered as if scorched from inside. Joshua shouted, What is this demon thing? Daniel stepped forward. It's not a demon. It's the truth you buried. And now it's waking up. Joshua turned to run. But the villagers blocked him. They had seen enough. He was finished. That night, Daniel dug. He returned to the old graveyard. This time, he followed the stone's warmth like a compass. Deeper into the earth. Until his spade hit something hard. Not wood. Not bone. Something else. His spade hit a root. Glowing faintly under the soil. He dug faster, heart racing. There, wrapped around the root like a belt, was a piece of cloth. Ancient, brown, and torn. He pulled it gently. Inside was a scroll. Unopened for what felt like centuries. He opened it. One sentence, written in a script he somehow understood. He who listens to the pain of others becomes the keeper of their healing. Daniel whispered the words. And the root pulsed once in his hand. The chair, even miles away, creaked softly in response. The truth seer's spirit had passed the torch. Daniel was no longer just a carpenter. He was now the keeper. It happened just before dawn. The villagers had locked Joshua in the old storehouse near the church. 2 men were guarding him. But when they checked at sunrise, he was gone. The window had been forced open. The guard's torch was smashed. One of them had a black eye, dazed and confused. He said something. The man stammered. He said he's going to carve his own chair. One that lies. Daniel froze. A chair that lies? That meant only one thing. Joshua was going to use the same wood, but he would twist it and corrupt it. 3 days later, news spread. A nearby village had been cursed. A child confessed to poisoning his sister. But then the sister stood up, alive and unharmed. An old man admitted to a murder that never happened. A woman said she buried her own child. The child walked in 5 minutes later. And all of them had one thing in common. They'd sat in a black chair. Daniel clenched his fists. Joshua had succeeded. He'd created a liar's chair. A chair that made people believe false memories, ruining lives, destroying trust. The truth-sayer's wood was being used against its purpose. Twisted and perverted. And now it was spreading. Daniel returned home late one evening to find Linda outside, staring at the sky. "I saw something," she said softly. "What do you mean?" She pointed to the clouds. "I saw 2 chairs. One black, one brown. They were talking. Not with mouths, but with energy. The black one was screaming. The brown one was weeping." Daniel sat beside her. "I think the wood is alive, Dan. I think it remembers. And if Joshua keeps using it the wrong way, it'll break. Not just the wood. The balance." Daniel rubbed his eyes. "Balance." Linda nodded slowly. "If the liar's chair spreads, people will stop trusting anything. Even their own memories. The world won't know what's true or false anymore." Daniel stood. He had to act now. Daniel went back to the graveyard again. Not to dig, but to pray. This time he brought the scroll. He read it again. He who listens to the pain of others becomes the keeper of their healing. He closed his eyes. Then suddenly he saw something in his mind. Not a dream. A memory. But not his. The truth-sayer himself. Betrayed. Bound. Buried alive. And as the villagers walked away, the tree grew over his grave, drinking his sorrow, his power, his gift. Daniel gasped. The tree didn't curse the wood. The wood was trying to protect people from lies. But now Joshua was forcing it to lie. And if that continued, the wood would rebel violently. The earth would open. The truth would scream. And no one would be able to silence it again. Let's continue. The stakes are now higher than ever. 2 chairs. One tells the truth. The other lies. And Joshua wants to build a throne that controls both. Daniel couldn't sleep that night. The visions haunted him. The scroll burned warm in his pocket, like a warning. He lit a candle and spread the scroll on the ground again. There was something hidden on the back, faint symbols, barely visible under the flickering light. He dabbed water on it gently. Words appeared. A memory once twisted must be returned through pain, blood, or fire. Daniel frowned. Pain, blood, or fire? What kind of ritual was this? Suddenly, he remembered the stories his grandfather used to tell. About a ceremony called the Circle of Memory, where truth was restored by reliving the exact moment it was lost. That was it. He'd have to find the first person who ever sat on Joshua's liar's chair, and pull their real memory back, even if it hurt. Her name was Clara, a teenage girl from Maji village. She sat in Joshua's liar's chair last week and told everyone her mother had abandoned her in a forest when she was 5. Her mother was arrested and beaten. But Clara's grandmother said it wasn't true. The mother had raised her with love, never left her side. Daniel visited Clara. She was quiet, her eyes confused. "My head hurts all the time," she whispered. "Sometimes I remember Mama braiding my hair. Then I see her throwing me away like a doll. I don't know which one is true anymore." Daniel placed his hand on her shoulder. "We're going to fix this." He gathered herbs, drew the circle of memory on the floor with chalk, and brought the chair from his shop, the truth teller. "Sit here," he said. Clara hesitated and slowly sat down. Then she screamed, but she didn't move. Tears streamed down her face. "I remember now, she didn't leave me. She was running. From someone. She was protecting me." Daniel nodded, tears in his own eyes. The memory snapped back into her mind like a puzzle piece returning to its place. The chair had fought the lie and won. That night, Joshua appeared again. Not in secret, but in public. He stood in the village square with his black chair, now bigger. Taller. A throne. "Let's end this," he shouted. "Your chair versus mine. Let the people choose." Daniel stepped forward. "You're not helping people. You're controlling them, twisting their minds. Joshua laughed. I'm giving them what they want, freedom from truth. Truth is painful. My chair is mercy. No, Daniel said calmly. Your chair is a lie, and lies rot the soul. The villagers murmured. Some stepped toward Joshua, but more gathered behind Daniel. The truth had hurt them, but it had also freed them. Joshua sneered. Then let's test it. One last time. A young man stepped forward. His name was Michael, and he was bold, always curious. He volunteered. I'll sit in both chairs. If I survive, let the truth win. First, he sat in Joshua's throne. His face changed. I was abused by my father. He locked me in the attic for days. Gasps. Then he sat in Daniel's chair. There was silence. Then he said, No, that never happened. My father died before I was born. It was my uncle who raised me. And he was kind. The villagers turned to Joshua. You're creating lies. Joshua's face twisted. I gave him a better story. One he could be angry about. People need pain to feel alive. Daniel raised the scroll. And you'll drown in the same lies you've planted. Joshua ran at him. But the chair, Daniel's chair, burst into a wind of invisible force. Joshua was thrown backward. The liar's throne cracked and splintered. And the black wood began to burn. Not from fire, but from truth. That night, thunder rolled across the sky, though there were no clouds. Daniel couldn't sleep. His ears buzzed like a warning bell. Then the earth trembled. The tree, the one at the old graveyard, groaned. Daniel ran out into the night. The bark was splitting. Roots twisted, rising like fingers clawing from the ground. From the cracked trunk, a deep sound escaped, like breathing. Like a voice older than time. I have listened for years, the voice said. Daniel stumbled back. The tree was speaking. I gave my gift to those who would use it well. But now the balance is broken. The lies have fed me poison. Suddenly, a branch shot out, cracking the soil, dragging something up from deep below. A skeleton. Not just any skeleton. The truth seer himself. Still clutching a piece of bark in his hand. Still wearing a black ring. Daniel reached out, shaking, and took the ring from the truth seer's bones. It was warm. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Suddenly, images flooded his mind, thousands of memories. People who had confessed. People who had healed. People who had broken. And then he saw Joshua as a boy crying. Sitting in the truth-teller's chair long ago. Confessing that he had stolen food, because his father beat him when he didn't. Daniel gasped. Joshua's war on truth began with pain. He never wanted to destroy the truth. He wanted to destroy the pain that came with it. Daniel clutched the ring. I can end this, he whispered. Linda joined him by the graveyard. She had brought Clara and Michael and others who had sat on both chairs. They formed a circle. Daniel placed both chairs, what was left of them, facing each other. One glowing faintly. The other smoldering with ashes. We're going to return the balance, Daniel said. Not by choosing one chair, but by choosing what's true even when it hurts. He slid the ring onto his finger. The ground shook again. The sky turned a deep orange. And the tree let out a long, low cry. Every person in the circle began to speak. Not in lies or in pain, but in full truth. Even the ugly parts. Even the things they were scared to say before. Tears flowed, but so did laughter. The truth didn't break them. It healed them. When the light faded, the chairs were gone. So was the tree. In their place was soft, clean soil. New and untouched. Joshua stood nearby. He was crying, not from pain, but from release. I remembered, he whispered. My father tried. He wasn't perfect. But he never hated me. He looked at Daniel. I was angry at truth, because I thought it was punishment. But maybe truth is a mirror. And I didn't like what I saw. Daniel nodded. There's always a second chance. Joshua reached into his pocket. He pulled out the last piece of black wood. And snapped it in half. For the first time in weeks, the wind stopped. And the village was finally quiet.